And we are live. Hey everybody, and welcome to Ch1Con 2017. So this is our annual Ask Anything panel, which, as you can see, we are live streaming to you on the internet for anyone who couldn't make it to Chicago to join us this year. And so if you a question is the letter CH, the number 1 is the letter CON. As many questions as possible. We're also going to be taking questions from our attendees in person, so we're going to be going back and forth, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. So, first off, do the panelists want to introduce themselves?
Probably a good idea. Yeah. Sorry. Me. You just go first. Crap. I backed myself in the corner there. All right. Hi, I am Kody Keplinger. I am a young adult and middle grade author. I am the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Duck, which was also made into a movie in 2015, as well as most recently my books Run, Lying Out Loud, and Swift Voice, and Me, as well as several others.
Cool. My name is Booki Vivat, and I am the author and illustrator of the Frazzled series. The first one is out. It's called Frazzled: Everyday Disasters and Impending Doom. And the second one is coming out at the end of September, September 26th.
Annie Sullivan. I write young adult and picture books and a lot of fairy tale, fantasy retellings. My book, A Touch of Gold, is not out yet, but I will let you all know when it is available.
Awesome. So our first question comes from one of the Ch1Con team members who couldn't come this year. Her name is Christina, and she specifically asks this for Kody, but I think it's the kind of question that we can kind of shape for everyone to answer. So the way she worded it was, for Kody, how has your writing process and/or mentality changed since you first started writing The Duck? And I think we could really use that for how has everyone's writing process changed since they started writing more seriously and working for publication.
Yeah, so yeah, it's fair. So when I was writing The Duck, I was 17, and I was mentioning this in my keynote earlier, but I grew up really, really poor. Internet at home, we didn't have cable, so if Gossip Girl and Grey's Anatomy weren't on like one of the 5 channels we had, I didn't really have much to do, so I wrote for fun. And because of that, writing was much more freeform for me. I didn't really think that much about plot arcs or character development. I just wrote. I just wrote and wrote and wrote, whether it was fan fiction or eventually The Duck. But as I got into writing professionally, things changed a lot. Now I have to think about using my time economically. I can't afford to just write whenever I feel like. I have to actually make myself more of a schedule. I also have to think about structure in ways that I didn't before, and I'm still not very good at that personally. I still frequently will turn in ideas for projects to my agent, and she'll be like, "That's great. What's the plot?" Great question. I don't know. You mean I can't just write a book about characters walking and talking? That would be my ideal book, honestly. But I had to start thinking about form and structure and craft in ways that I really wasn't when I was in high school. And because of that, I will say, I admit that I cringe a little when I look back and read The Duck. I'm still really proud of it. I'm so glad I wrote it. But it is weird to read something that I wrote when I was 17 and have that be what I'm most well known for, because there's so much that, were I writing it today, I would have changed and fixed, etc. And I think that's normal. I hope that in 8 years I look back on the book I'm writing right now that I'm really proud of and think the same thing. But yeah, I definitely look at craft and actually think about craft as I'm working much more than I did when I was writing The Duck.
But yeah, when you talk about cringing after reading the thing you wrote first, I totally identify with that, because I kind of feel the same about the first book that I wrote. The first book was basically trying to figure out how to communicate this to the design team, how to best design it, what pictures work best in what context, and just the whole first book was how do I make this illustrated novel work? And so to go back to the question of how things have changed, with the second book, I kind of knew what what worked and what didn't, and I could apply that to like my process in writing the second. But then there was also this question of still trying to like improve and keep it more dynamic. And so as my like art style changed, like so I actually think that the illustrations in the second book are better than the illustrations of the first. But it's really weird to think of it that way, and just to see that like even within from book to book, my like art and my work and my writing is like changing.
Yeah, I would say I'm a total pantser. So as I've grown older and written more and more, I start to plot a little bit more. You know, I start to think earlier on about who is this character, you know, do more character sketches and profiles and all that kind of stuff to really get to know them before I get too far in the book and then kind of have to go back and fix things. So really just kind of grow it that way.
Great answers. So next we're going to take a question from our audience here. So do any attendees have any questions they'd like to ask?
Sure.
What are your guys' favorite type of scene story?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's actually a joke among my friends about this. If there's a scene that takes place at a party, it's always the last thing I write because I hate writing it. I hate writing party scenes, and I always have one in my book for some reason. But if there is a scene where someone has hit rock bottom and is sobbing, and like, so, okay, there's a scene in Run, this is a mild spoiler, but very mild. There's a scene in Run where one character has literally hit rock bottom. She's in a hotel room, sad drinking, and like just crying. It's like her rock bottom, and she's miserable, and she ends up like drinking so much she gets sick. Oh my god, I love reading that scene so much. It's the most depressing scene in the book. It's still a scene that like people who tell me like, they're like, oh man, that scene really got me in the gut. It was so emotional, and I'm like, thank you. That was one of the first scenes in the book that I wrote, like while listening to like Secret Sisters, Let There Be Lonely. You know, I was like, if there's a scene where people hit rock bottom, it's probably my favorite scene, right?
That's great. I mean, this is hard. I think like I love finding different ways to express this sense of freaking out, and like that's kind of my whole shtick is this freaking out. So it's like been interesting to see like what I could come up with and how I could try and make it different every single time. And I'm like constantly surprising myself by how many like different ways I can show my internal like freaking out. But so I think it's really funny when I can like take things from real life and like kind of make them humorous, because then one, I don't have to like, sometimes I don't have to write it out. Sometimes I think like if I try to write it out as a joke, it wouldn't be as funny. But if I can show it like and draw it in a funny way, like I love doing that.
I write a lot of fantasy and fairy storytelling, so anytime I can set a scene in, you know, like a magical forest or a dark forest, I love that, because I never know what's going to come out of it, you know. It could be a new creature, or like one time I had this, it was a weird forest where everything was kind of messed up, and there was a skunk. So instead of when the skunk sprayed you, you smelled terrible, you actually smelled like the best thing in the world to whatever was smelling you, which might be great. You're like, oh, I smell like roses, until that predator over there was like, oh, they smell like my favorite food. So like I love like coming up with just fun scenes where you can just be really creative. So any sort of magical scene I love writing.
We have another question from the attendees. Katie.
What is your favorite kind of character? Not necessarily something you've written, but not necessarily a trope, but that kind of thing.
Oh, I like angry girls. A lot, and it's actually funny. I remember one of my former editor, who did my first couple of books, I was working on one project and I was really struggling with it, and she just straight up told me, honestly, you don't write nice girls well. I think I've gotten better at writing nice girls. This has been a few years ago. That said, the angry, messed up, like aggressive girls, I'm not that girl at all. I'm like terrified of people being mad at me. I'm terrified of like being confrontational. But I love writing angry girls, and I love reading angry girls. Like bitter, like angry teenage girls are my favorite characters always.
I mean, this is also not surprising. This is not surprising, but I love girls that like don't have their stuff together. I love reading girls that do that. I think that's like what my character is. I always go back to it's the like Louise Renison books, the Angus Mom, the full frontal snogging. Like she is so nuts, and I love it because she's so unapologetically nuts, and she's not necessarily like some of the stuff she does is like cringe-worthy, but you just are like so with her for it.
I remember
and
in the first book, they have this system they make up so that you'll faint. Because I think if you faint, the boy will catch them. And I'm like, oh my god.
I love just like weird characters that are just but like weird in a very honest and true way. Like I felt those feelings before. I love when characters aren't like so over the top that it's like not realistic, but it's like just realistic enough, but like weird for this world. You know, like you don't see that a lot. I love like that kind of girl.
I mean, I write a lot of stories with princesses, so I love writing like strong female protagonists. But I would have to say my favorite group to write about is actually the villains. Like, for some reason, they're just
villains are
like
fun,
so
yeah.
fun, right? Like, you can just get into this like other mode of like, there's so much tension and anger and whatever there, you know? So I really love, you know, just writing about villains.
Bad.
Yes.
So I have a question for you guys. So, do you guys ever consider writing something that's very different from your other work? Like if you write a lot of contemporary, do you consider doing fantasy, or if you write a lot of fantasy, do you consider doing contemporary?
I do. I want to write everything. Like I am that. It goes back to the whole Slytherin thing. Like I want to do everything and be the president. Like not anymore, but when I was a kid, that was like my goal, was to be the president. But no, I want to write a little bit of everything. And so while right now I focus on contemporary YA and middle grade, like I always have a side project going. And usually that side project, it might not ever sell, and that's okay. It's usually kind of more for me, for fun, but it's usually fantasy. And you know, maybe one day one of those side projects will be something that I feel like showing my agent, and you know, usually I like to have something on the side that's no pressure, and that's usually fantasy, because that's what I started writing when I was actually in high school. Before I got into writing the dubs, I wrote a lot of fan fiction based on fantasy worlds, but I also wrote like my own original stuff that was like urban fantasy or paranormal, etc. So like that's kind of my roots in a way. So I always have kind of a fun side project I'm working on between revisions. Cool.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't think that I think there's, I want to expand, but within what I like, within like certain like constructs. Like I don't think that, like I like reading fantasy, but I just don't think I could do it justice. And I like kind of just being a reader in that way, and not having to like really analyze it or try and like mimic it or copy that like a fantasy world kind of thing. I just kind of like being in a fantasy world, but I don't think I would like creating one necessarily. But I do think like, in terms of like my art and in terms of what kind of stories I want to tell, like Frazzled is a really like funny, kind of like lighthearted story, and I would love to kind of explore something a little deeper and a little like more serious. I think it would be really hard, but I think that would be kind of like my next challenge, like creative challenge to myself. That would be kind of fun.
You know, I would definitely be interested in writing like contemporary or something like that, but I think for now I just tend to focus more on fantasy. Like I love creating new creatures and new worlds and different characters that kind of fit within them and playing with fairy tales that already exist. So I think for now I'm like satisfied there, but I wouldn't mind branching out. Like I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, do we have any more questions? Yeah.
I know this is kind of like asking a parent who their favorite child is, but out of your books, which is your favorite character that you've written?
That's actually really easy for me, which is probably a problem. So whenever people ask me my favorite one of my books, so like I don't necessarily choose, like, no, it's easy. My favorite book that I've written is for sure Run, and my favorite character comes from that book, and that's the character Bo. It's funny, a lot of people assume the character, the Run is my most recent book, and it has two main characters, Bo and Agnes. And a lot of people assume Agnes is either based on me or is the character I care most about because she is also legally blind, like I am. And I'm like, actually, Agnes, other than being blind, we don't have a lot in common. Bo is grows up in a trailer and like is from a very poor part of town, and she's kind of like angry but also sweet and misunderstood. And I love her so much. She's the one that gets like sad drunk, and so I like love her, and like I like put her through hell, but like it was hard for me while I also enjoyed it. I don't know, it's weird. Writers are strange people. It's like we love our characters, so we punish them terribly. But yeah, for me, easy. It's Bo and Run.
I'm torn between two different characters. One, because I think that the character on the page, I haven't really gotten to expand on her. Like one of her best friends is named Logan, and he's like really smart and really like in my mind, like socially awkward. And so I think that like I have so much more in that character that I haven't gotten to explore because I've only done like 1 or 2 books, and Abby's the main character. And so it's hard because in a way, like I want Logan to be able to have more time, but because it's so much in her own head, and because the book is so focused on her, I'm only seeing like that character from her perspective. So it's like hard because like I really want everyone to know this character that I know, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe like a spin-off or something. So I'm torn between him and her brother, who I think like I always wanted an older brother, and
They're not that great, I promise.
well, like the one I wrote is awesome, but she doesn't think so. So I was like, oh, this is good. But I just think he's like a good guy, and I would love to have a brother like that.
I have older brothers, and I would love to have a brother like that.
No, I think I love my character Cora, who's in A Touch of Gold. You guys haven't read yet, obviously. But she's just such a unique character. She actually has golden skin. She's the daughter of King Midas. And so she's very isolated for that fact. But I love her character arc of how she kind of, finds her place in the world and goes on this adventure. I won't ruin the plot for you. But you'll have to read it and figure out why she's my favorite character, because she really grows throughout the entire book, and I love that about her.
Okay, so we have another question from Twitter for all 3 of you. What are the differences that you have found in writing YA versus middle grade? If you write both, or if you write one, what makes it really distinct to you as a genre or category?
So I write both, and I would say, for me, there's some obvious differences, which are the characters' ages and the target audience, but I think as far as when I'm writing a new project, my main focus is not on the target audience or any of that, it's on the main character and like how they see the world. And I don't know if this is necessarily true across all YA and middle grade. This is just kind of for me when I'm separating them. Characters are often inward and how they feel about certain situations, and it's very like emotionally driven. How does this affect me? How does the world affect me, etc. And middle grade tends to be focused more outwards. How do like observing the world and kind of seeing things and understanding things fresh. Like I think middle school is that point when you really start to understand how the world around you works and how people communicate and like are trying to figure out how you fit into that. So I think my YA tends to be focused more inward, while my middle grade focuses more like outward. So whereas YA for me is like, how is the world affecting me? My middle grade tends to be more like, how do I affect the world? Does that make sense?
That's really interesting. Yeah. I think a little bit hard. I think that I have written what I would like probably like put in that YA category, but it's like not long pages, like in writing class when I had to write something. But I think because I write middle grade, I think one thing that I started realizing when I first started writing was like the way, the voice of it, because like my middle grade is from first person, and so I was really like aware of like what sounded like realistic and what I would say versus like I think when like the character is looking is kind of like being introspective. Like it's a different kind of introspective than I think an older character would have. And so like I think for me when I'm like kind of addressing that, like I never like have her address like think of her feelings as if she was like a senior in high school or something. You know, like a senior in high school sees things and like thinks about the world and thinks about herself in a very different way than like a 6th grader does. Yeah. So I think that is like my main kind of like separation.
Middle grade. I do YA and I dabble in picture book as well. I think that is a huge difference, right? Big gap. I mean, you're talking about, like 500 words for a picture book and you can't include like he was wearing a red shirt. Like no, I mean that's all done in the illustration. So it's really a challenge thinking about like, oh, okay, no description here. Like let the pictures, let the illustrations do the work, like they do in Booki is book. Yeah. So that kind of stuff you have to really think about versus YA, which is you go a lot deeper into the character and their thoughts. Saying.
Great. So we have another attendee that wants to ask a question. Emma.
Hi, this is a question from my friend Chriselle who had to write early today. But she wanted to know if you guys have gone through any like significant bouts of writer's block and wanted to know what caused them and what caused you to get over them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I went through a really bad one a few years back. And if we're being frank, what caused it was depression. I couldn't write for about a year. Every time I started to write, I would have a panic attack. And it was because of a combination of things, depression among them, but also I had a bad writing experience where the book wasn't working and we had to shelve it. And it was a book that I'd worked on for a really long time. And it's hard to realize that something you've worked on for so long is just not gonna work. But it happens. And I would just start panicking every time I tried to write something. I had a huge panic attack and would just end up in tears, and I couldn't write for like a year. I would write a chapter and then just flip out. What got me out of it was writing middle grade, actually. Weird series of events had led me to sell a middle grade book on proposal. And then I started, hitting my really bad writer's block. I guess it was the beginning of 2013 is when it really got bad. But then it comes to the beginning of 2014, and it's like, well, this middle grade book is due in like a month and a half. I've got to write the rest of it. And it was just the perfect change of scenery in a way. I had gone from writing about teenagers to here I was writing about an 11-year-old girl, and it was a different voice, a completely different narrative, and I ended up writing the first draft of that book in about a month, which was fast for me. And it ended up being the best editorial process I've ever had. My editor and I, it was the first time we worked together on anything, and it was smooth sailing. I loved all her notes. Like, it just was the easiest process. And it was the perfect turnaround. Like, that's what I needed to make me realize why I love to write again. And it made it a lot easier. So yeah, I definitely hit writer's block. It's not fun, it's not easy, it's not always easy to pull yourself out of it, but sometimes I think changing scenery helps.
I always have like little bouts of writer's block and as in the middle of projects, and for me, because I'm lucky that my book is both is illustrated, so for me, like if I get stuck in a scene, I'll just like draw emotion from that scene, and even if I don't use it later, it will help me kind of like get out of this like structure of like what there's the next word I'm gonna type, And I think that like a bigger kind of like bout of writer's block that I really had was maybe before I even got the book. After so I went to college and I was a literature writing major, and I used to write all the time. And then I think when I got into those classes, once I left, I kind of was stuck because I just felt like anything I was creating wasn't good enough. I wasn't drawing anything, so I didn't do anything really creative until I started keeping these planners and drawing more just for myself and drawing for fun. And then I started writing just kind of for fun. And I never showed anyone, and it was just because I wanted to get out an idea or because I wanted to draw out an idea. And I think that letting go of that pressure to create, something that felt viable or felt usable, I think that was actually what got me out of being in a rut, because I was just doing things for without any pressure, and that was maybe the most freeing part of it.
I mean, I think everyone goes through writer's block at some point. You're gonna encounter it, whether you're just really stressed or depressed or whatever it is. So one of the things I like to do, especially if I'm in the middle of something and I just can't think my way out of a scene, is I like to go back to what I'm working on and look at what character haven't I utilized yet. Or I said, I write a lot of dark forest. What creatures haven't I utilized to their fullest potential? And just kind of exploring it that way. What else can I add to it? What can make it new? And also, if you're on Twitter, you can follow me. I'm ANNSULLIVA. There's a pinned tweet. It's my top tweet right there when you go to my Twitter page, and it's how to deal with writer's block. And it's a video I made dressed as an inflatable T-Rex.
No way.
Yeah. And it's got all these tips, maybe go for a walk, hash it out with your critique partners. Read, that's definitely a good one. Just keep reading, right? Or maybe another thing I do is I'll go back to a work that I, was really hard for me to write, but now it's finished and it's really great and I love it. And I'm oh yeah, I remember how hard that scene was to write, but I got through it. And it just reminds you that you will get through it. But yeah, you can check out that video as well for more tips and to see an inflatable T-Rex doing fun writer stuff.
Amazing.
All right, let's take another attendee question. Okay.
How do you feel about having adequate and accurate representation?
Oh, yeah. So my first thought, of course, is when I'm looking at a book, I think about who are the characters as people. Before I think about anything else, I think about who they are as people. And honestly, usually I have an idea of how they fit into the world, whether or not they are from a marginalized background pretty early on. Someone and disabled, of course, it's going to come in my mind. But I also, when I'm writing, think a lot about, am I the person? So as far as education, adequate representation, as far as accuracy goes, I first have a place of being a human. If something that's out of my lane, first I ask myself, am I the person to be writing this? And if so, if I think I can be writing, if I think I should be writing this, I then ask, do I know people from this background? Do I have close friends in this background who would read this book anyway? I don't usually go and seek out people, cold call people, be like, hey, will you read my book? Which, by the way, has happened to me as a blind person. I've had writers that I meet in person for the first time, like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. By the way, I'm writing a blind character. Would you read my book? And that's really offensive, personally. Because I'm like, I'm glad that you care about writing disabled people, but like, I'm to be a person, not to just like fix your book. So I always think about like, do I know people who would have read my book anyway? To see if my representation is okay, but because they're my friends and they would read it anyway. Because if I don't know people personally from that background, I'm not the person to write that story. I'm just not. So I think about that quite a bit. But I also think that it's important to consider like staying in your lane. Like again, I write, as far as main characters go, I will write main characters who are queer and who are disabled pretty regularly because that's, you know, that's my background, that's who I am. The characters from other marginalizations, I don't know if I'm the person to write them as main characters. I do try to populate my world with people from different backgrounds and marginalizations because that's reality. And I always think about this too, when I read books, I don't expect a blind person to be the main character in every book, but if I read a book where there's no disabled people even mentioned, like walking past, I'm kind of like where are we? I think about this like with dystopians, for example. If I don't see any disabled people at all, my brain immediately says, did they wipe us out? Like, where did we go? So I think a lot about, am I the person to be writing this? And two, if I am the person to be writing this, how can I go about this accurately? And I think the first place to start is to actually know people and to talk to people honestly. And don't just seek them out because they happen to be from the background you're trying to write about, but seek them out, but like make sure that they're people that you would have talked to about this anyway. I don't know if that's making any sense. I feel rambly. It's an awkward question to answer, honestly. It's like, well, a lot of times the representation I'm writing about is my own, from my own experience. So it's complicated.
Yeah, and it's hard because like the project and like like every book requires different things, and I think like you can kind of apply that. Every book requires different like a process, and I think that part of it is just being like aware and being like sensitive and just thinking about like your characters as as humans, as people.
Yes.
And I think another thing that I always like want to keep in mind is to make sure that like whatever representation I have, it's not necessarily like what is crafting this representation? Is it something that I saw in another book? And if so, am I perpetuating something that has been told to me by like media or something, or am I perpetuating something that someone else has created and not something that's like rooted in reality or real people? And so I think that's sort of kind of something like, I mean, for my book, it's like all about Abby, and Abby is rooted in me, so I don't really have to worry about the representation of myself because like I'm like, okay, this is a fictionalized version of myself, and saying you can't tell me that this isn't like a real person because I'm here.
And I know that with like with Agnes and Red, like her blindness might not be accurate to everyone, but it's accurate to my blindness. You know, so yeah, I agree with that. And yes, to not perpetuating things like just because you saw it in a book or a movie doesn't mean that that's a great representation.
Yeah, just like a lot of research and thought. I think a lot of like sometimes like with writing you kind of just want to like get it done and you want to like just like write it as fast as you can and be done with your book. But I think that there's something to say about like really like looking, like taking a step back and looking at what you've done and what you've created critically and trying to get a little distance from it and doing your characters justice, or doing like people who look or like sound or act like your characters and doing that.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I mean, I agree with what Kody said. Like, I want to be very respectful of, you know, making sure I'm writing to my experience and not, you know, taking away an opportunity for someone else writing to their experience.
Yeah.
Just at the Midwest Writers Workshop, like, I think 2-3 weeks ago, and I got to meet Angie Thomas there with the Hate and Give. And, you know, she did a whole panel on diversity is not a trend. Like, don't just add diversity and you're like, I need some minority characters. Like, no, make them people. They are people. Look around us in this room, you know, like, find these people, like, include them, make them real characters, not stereotypes, right? Like, do your research and ask yourself again, am I supposed to be, if you're writing this main character, like, should I be writing this? Do I need sensitivity readers? Like, you know, ask yourself those questions and just be aware that diversity is in the world and it should be in our books.
And if getting a sensitivity reader means like using someone specifically for their marginalization, right? Like I said, when I do have to go in and pull sensitivity readers to read my work, I always think about like, well, who is a peak partner of mine already? If anyone that fits that background that I'm close with already, probably not the right person to write that story.
Okay, we have another question from Twitter. So, what books, authors, TV, etc., influence your work?
Oh. Everything.
Yeah.
As far as TV goes, I was heavily influenced. I mean, I don't think I would write YA if it wasn't for the OC, which is a good throwback reference. I'm sure many of you were 3 when that show started. But I was 12, so I was still young. But I loved teenagers. Not my mind. I loved writing about teenagers like forever, and then that show happened. Like, oh, drama, I like it. As far as like what influences books, movies, music influenced me, it's been I'm definitely really inspired by really wonderful writers. I would say my ultimate goal in life is to be like the YA Judy Blume. Like I read Judy Blume when I was the first time when I was 8, and like my mom had read Are You There, Rex and Margaret to me, and it changed my life. So I remember thinking, how does this woman know what I'm thinking? I was convinced she'd like somehow been a psychic or something. And that's kind of she was just because she was so honest. And yeah, I think that's probably my biggest influence is Judy Blume, just because she handled everything just so honestly, with my like unflinchingly honest about like especially being a girl. And I love that.
Yeah, I think like influences for me and for like Frazzle specifically, because like I wanted my character to be this like girl who was like kind of like made mistakes and was kind of odd and like but was like felt like honest and real. And I think for me, like, you know, like Harriet the Spy, like Ella from Ella Enchanted, like the, you know, Georgia from the Louise Renison books, like oh, and like also like TV shows like I don't know, like Freaks and Geeks, Clarissa Explains It All, like all these like, okay, that's like way throwback, sorry guys, Clarissa Explains It All, right?
So many of these little work.
Yeah, old shows that I grew up with. Yeah, no, I think that I really was really influenced by this like idea of that could exist, and wanting to kind of do that justice and do justice to like the kid that I was when I was that age. And like, you know, I think that they're all kind of like you kind of pull inspiration from a lot of different points. Sometimes it's hard to pinpoint what exactly like really hits you, and I think it's kind of like a mush of like all the things.
And then there's also music, which is a whole other thing.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really think about music inspiring books, but like several of my books have been inspired just by like a song played, and I was like, I know what I'm writing about next.
Right.
So that happens too.
I would say like Jane Austen, of course, you saw my earlier presentation, which I featured highly. Jane Austen, I love Make Habit and like Madeline Lingle. Like, so if you like combine all those guys together, you'd get like me. Like they just really influence like what I write, how I plot, what I think I want to write about. I love them. Joey?
So if you get an idea for a book, you roll it around in your head before you start writing, or you just kind of sit down and
I do. Usually if I get an idea for a book, I always am coming up with ideas for books. Like I call one of my friends exciting and you want to chase them, even when you should else. I always have ideas, and I almost never jot them down. Instead, what I prefer to do is I let them sit in my head. And if I'm still thinking about it 2 or 3 weeks later, I know it's something to give a shot. Because oftentimes if I get an idea right away, it will vanish within a day or two. And I know that probably wasn't a book I would have been able to spend months or a year on. So yeah, I mull them over before I write down a single word. I know other people need to write it down. If I write it down, it becomes too easy to let it fizzle out. But if I let it sit there for a few weeks and it's still there, then I know it's something worth doing.
Like things in it, it's like, and half of them have like all died, and some of them like, and before that I used to like just keep things in like my old computer, and so I was going through like my old like high school or like college computer, and I was like, oh god, like what was that idea, you know? And it totally didn't like pan out into anything, but I think just like kind of like weird snippets. Sometimes I won't really like go in on it, and I think it does need to like for me like roll around a little bit, and if it's something that I'm really like interested in like breaking apart, I think I'll naturally come back to it.
Yeah.
But I think there is something to be said about like kind of exploring it in a way, and just like writing it down, like just like notes that only you understand, like code or whatever, and just like letting it sit, and then like whether or not it comes back is kind of a good indication of how strongly you feel about it. I think for me.
I definitely use notes on my phone as well. Like it's like I printed it out once. It's like a 40-page single-spaced document of just like ideas of like things and like all this stuff. And so I definitely want to get that idea down. And sometimes I'll start writing it right away. Like I'll just be like on my computer, I'm like, I gotta write that first page. And sometimes it goes nowhere. Sometimes it leads to an entire book. But there are some ideas that I'm still mulling. There's one that I'm like, it's like the book of my heart, and I want to write it, but I've been mulling it over for 10 years. It's such a big fantasy world that I want to make sure I get it right, you know? I want to make sure that all the elements add up, that all the magic is consistent, that all the characters are who they need to be. And so sometimes I think it just depends on the book and maybe, you know, what you're writing, if you think you need to write it now, or let it sit and kind of work those elements out.
Okay, so we have another question from Twitter. What is your favorite trope in your genre, as irritating as other people might find it?
Oh my gosh, this is hard.
I can go if you want.
Yeah.
So I read a lot of fairy tales, right? Like, I love the staircase moment, okay? When the girl's on top of the stairs and everyone turns to look at her and they're like, oh, she's so beautiful. I can't help it. So that's me, guys. Staircase moment.
Okay, it says something about me as a person that we take this staircase moment. My immediate thought goes to that documentary. Like weird murder case.
Okay, yeah. When you said staircase moment, I was like, and you fall down the staircase? Give me an idea. Whoa, okay, different staircase moment. Yeah, I was like, you jump down the stairs?
Yeah, you fall down and you just look really great. You're usually in like a ball gown, so
I
bonus.
I needed that, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Tropes. I think like, I don't know, for like middle grade books, it's always like having like the teacher or like the or an evil like mean person, mean girl, mean popular girl. And I don't know. I feel like they're like that was real for me, and so I was like, you know, I'm doing it. I don't care if it's cliche. I'm doing it. This is real life. Like this is my real experience, and no one can tell me differently. So I mean, I'm always a fan of like the real, like the evil teacher or something. But I think for me, I like did the evil teacher, and I kind of wanted, like I was saying before, I wanted to redeem her in some ways. So hopefully, I kind of did that.
I guess mine would have to be love-hate relationships. I love the like we're arguing and now we're kissing scenes. And you can see that if you read like my first 3 books. Actually, first 4 YA books. There's a lot of love-hate. Yeah, I Pride and Prejudice was a big influence on me. It may have like ruined me as a person because I'm like. And now that I'm older, I do find like appreciation for like relationships that are like genuinely like healthy and like happy. Like Ben and Leslie on Parks and Rec are my OTP forever. And that's just like a happy, healthy relationship. And I'm like, I love it. But also like Chuck and Blair from Gossip Girl. I'm referencing Gossip Girl way too much at this conference. But yeah, I love we hate each other and now we're making out trope. I can't help it. It's so terrible, but I love it.
It's a good one.
All right, so we probably have time for 2 more questions. So let's get another audience question. Kelly?
What is the biggest number of drafts that you've ever done for a book before?
It was big enough that I lost count. So that answer?
Yeah. I don't like to keep count.
No.
I just do it and then I'm like, oh, I had to redo that whole book. It's fine. That doesn't count as a draft, right? Is it 1 draft? I don't know. That was I think it's hard to. I don't keep count because I think it's also kind of hard to keep count because I think it's like slowly changing.
Right. Like if you change one scene because it comes
The
to
count.
draft.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as like number of documents on my computer saved for one book, I mean we're looking at upwards of 15.
Yeah, I would say like 20-ish, but I stopped using the number system at some point.
Yeah.
Like
I use dates.
I use dates.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. And I like deleting them afterwards because I was going through. I was like, I don't really need any of these. I don't want to ever look back at that.
I was so terrified about it. I was like, I got something and I need it someday.
Okay, I have like a separate thing where like all the things that changed. Where I have like a Word doc that's like everything I cut out.
Yes.
And I just like keep it just in case that ends in a good sentence or something.
Like, there's always that one sentence like, I am gonna use this.
Yeah.
And never use it.
Yeah.
But I have it just in case.
There's no real reason, but it becomes a problem when you're like searching for a document in your binder. Like I have to your binder, and it's like I need to wait, which version of it? Yeah, but I'm too lazy to go through and like delete them.
Well, see, I'm a big deleter. I like destroyed all my middle school like diaries and journals because I didn't want anyone to find them. I know. Yeah, it's brutal. Because I was like so embarrassed, and I'm like, these will all burn. No one will use these against me. I know. So when it came to like research, I was like, oh, crap, it's all gotta be up here now. I gotta like.
I have a journal just been like,
When I think about it, like, what thoughts did I have? I don't know.
Oh no, I still have mine and it's terrible. You don't ever see that one.
All right, we'll take 1 more audience question.
Have you asked the narrow question
We have not asked it yet.
Okay, which item is if you go to Narrowbread, if not, you can just pick another thing to read, like Star Wars or whatever. But which Narrowbread food item do you most relate to ship yourself with, etc.?
Oh, she gets asked every single panel we do.
Okay.
Like 5 years.
Okay. Easily, okay, and I'm just, to be fair, I'm just picking what I order, so forgive me. Which is the Mediterranean veggie sandwich minus the feta, hold the cheese, I don't eat cheese, but it's made with tomato basil bread, and that tomato basil bread, and then there's a little bit of hummus, and it's heaven, and I go to Panera sometimes just for that. And then the roll that they give you on the side, because bread.
Okay, I'm gonna do full Panera meal, half bacon turkey bravo, half whatever the soup of the day is if it's good, and then a side pastry, and that would be my like fully like all the things I want. I'm a big pastry fan. It's in the book. I just put it in there so people give me pastries and it worked. Like literally, like sometimes like if I go to an elementary school and they read my book, they'll like have pastries ready for me, and I'm like.
You're like, I'm living the good life now.
Yeah.
So wait, I was all about gold. Am I?
You're set. You're set. All the gold you can ever want. Yeah, no.
It's a good topic to write about.
Yeah.
I really need to stop writing about angry girls. There's some pastries in it.
Yeah.
I love their Caesar salad and their broccoli cheddar soup. So.
Oh, can I add something to my list?
Yeah.
They make really good smoothies. I can't have them anymore because a lot of them have milk in them. But before I stopped with dairy, oh my god, they had like a blackberry smoothie or something.
I love Panera.
And Panera's welcome to sponsor any of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was not, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not.
They
It's
didn't
just
take
not product placement. We just all
for 5 years.
but, yeah.
Ask and you shall receive, right? So.
And Panera, if you're watching, I really like the tomato basil.
Oh, it is really good.
So good.
Oh, I love pastry.
I like tomato basil anything.
Okay, so we're gonna ask one more question, so we have one more on Twitter. So it is, what is your shiftiest shift? Your shift that sails the smoothest, your OT.
Ooh, okay.
I've already said mine. It's probably, okay, wait, can I say a second one?
Yes.
Because I said Ben and Leslie, which is like probably my number one forever and always. Oh, it's a con and like, which was my first shift. It was my first.
That's a great one. That's a great one. I was a really big fan of James and Lily from Harry Potter. I just loved that, like, I could do whatever I wanted with it, and like, you knew just enough so that it was like, you loved it, but like, it wasn't like ruined by J.K. Rowling, who would never ruin it, obviously. But, you know, like, I just felt like there's such freedom there. I like lived off like James and Lily fan fiction my whole growing up. Is that too old? Like, okay. Right?
I said con and Leia.
All right, that's like way older.
I'm going way back to Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Why are you thinking Darcy?
I have to go with Elizabeth and Darcy. I mean, you can't.
They're good.
If we're doing like classic literature, can I say Benedict and Beatrice from?
Oh my God, let's do about nothing.
So good.
That's the best love-hate relationship.
That's like the love hate to start the relationship. Like there would be no Lizzie Darcy without Beatrice.
Oh, yeah. I will watch any like Much Ado About Nothing.
Every adaptation.
Every adaptation.
There's a great YA novel we talk about. There's a YA novel.
Oh, wait, like,
It's phenomenal.
Speakeasy Speak Love.
Oh.
Shout out. Yeah.
I think we had a fan moment.
That was like, you're so close.
I will watch 80 Much Ado adaptations this year.
It's the best Shakespeare play. Whatever, Romeo and Juliet. Like, that was not good, guys.
If you want a good romance, Much Ado. And it's not about Hero and Claudio, screw them. Beatrice and Benedict forever. Beatrice is where If I Were a Man speech. Oh, so good.
If I were a man, I would eat him for the marketplace. Sorry. Okay, that was really a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, feeling.
Do you guys have any last notes or anything you want to share with the viewers and our attendees?
Oh, I have a good thought. So I have like advice, and I think that the advice that I kind of like have said not get your creative work, because I think constantly, and it's like content. Like every time I draw something, in the past I would always be like, this is junk. This is nothing. This is just for fun. And even with that time I realized goes away after or something, like I don't need to show anyone. I don't need like I'm not seriously learning to get over that and learning to just accept that like not everything I do is going to be great, but everything that I do is like important to the next thing that I'm going to do. It is part of it. And so learning not to like pretend like these things weren't, like I'm not working, I think that's really impactful, because I think a lot of times you just think like, oh, I'm just writing, like, or you don't want to tell people you're writing, it's not like published or anything. But I think that you need to recognize that like when you're doing that, you could be like watching TV and like binging Netflix or something, but you're like choosing to do something like creative, and you're choosing to kind of put yourself out there, and you're doing like it's work. It's not like you're just like passive. You're very active in creating something. And I think that there's something really owning that and embracing the fact that you're like something.
Love that advice.
Yeah.
I would say, like, you know, Brandon talked about this earlier, but don't give up, you know? Like, this can be a hard business. It can seem like it's taking years, but don't give up. And also, you know, support authors. Buy Booki's book, buy Kody's book. Like, you know, that's how publishers are going to have money to, you know, buy other books, is if you keep buying books. So be a good literary citizen as well.
Can't add anything. Those were perfect ending notes.
Well, thank you to our speakers and thank you to all of you, and that's it.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
We're gonna go watch Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah, then we're gonna mention all the Much Ado About Nothing. Every single adaptation. We're all going.
Bye, viewers.